I'm Stacey and welcome to my old Kentucky home. Today we're cooking up breakfast. This is one of my family's favorites, country ham and red-eye gravy, and then a little later Jessica's going to show you how to make a Bourbon Bloody Mary. So very simple ingredients for today's recipe. We're going to start with 4 slices of country ham, we're going to add some butter, and then we're going to add some day-old coffee. And this is very important because you need it nice and stout. And then we're going to serve it with biscuits, which we whipped up a little earlier. We used the recipe from a previous episode. Let's get started. All right, we're ready to make some red-eye gravy. And the first step is to heat up your country ham because we're going to render the grease off of that to make this gravy. And you're going to want your ham kind of warm and a little browned anyway. So I've got my ham ready. I've got the cast iron skillet really hot. We're going to test that with a little water. Perfect. Now my mother and my mother-in-law like to use an electric skillet, which is fine too, but we're just going to do it in the cast iron today. So we're going to put our ham in there. We're going to cook 2 pieces at a time. You can hear me over that sizzle. I want to give you a little of the background of country ham. It's mainly known in the South, southern states like Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas, Virginia, and of course Kentucky are known for this special curing method, which is a salt curing method. It goes back generations. This was before there was refrigeration. So they needed a way to cure the meat to save it. And so they used salt or they smoked it and then they aged it, wrapped it in a cotton sack, and you could eat on this for months, if not maybe years. So even to this day, this country ham that I got, it was pre-sliced, but it was unrefrigerated. It was in the end aisle of the supermarket, and you can get a whole ham and slice it yourself. Today, a lot of people are doing country ham a charcuterie style. So this would be similar to the way the Italians cure their ham, which is ironic that I had an Italian grandmother and a country grandmother, right? So the Italians don't smoke theirs, and they slice it really, really paper thin charcuterie style. You're seeing that with country hams today, but this is a very traditional, more country method, the way I grew up on, where you slice, almost a 1/4 to 3/4 inch thick ham steak and then fry it up and then make this gravy. Okay, so I think that's about long enough for brown on one side. We're going to flip it. And you can see it's starting to render some grease, but to get even a little more grease after I've browned it on one side, we're going to add a little water. And that's just going to give us the basis of our red-eye gravy. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. Some more about this. I said this was one of my dad's favorites. He introduced it to my son who loved to. You can see this bone in there. Whenever we get it, they would fight over who got the country ham bone. So it's a good memory for me. And I grew up eating this. This was way before I even drank coffee. I love the taste. Some people think it's a little too bitter. Some people add sugar to theirs. We don't in the Shepherd family or the Yates family, but it's good stuff. Okay, and I wish you could smell this. So that piece is nice and ready. You can see we're just kind of going to deglaze the pan with the drippings. We'll let that cook down just a minute, get a little dry spot to add these other 2 pieces. So the term country ham was first used, they think, about the 1940s. Prior to that, in this region of the South, you just called it ham. You didn't know any difference. Now we do say the difference between a country ham, which is the salt cured, very salty by the way, and then we call city ham is just the boiled or the baked ham that you might have on a holiday or put on sandwiches. But with country ham, I always say, if I'm going to have this in the morning, I need to be sure that I hydrate the rest of the day because it is very, very salty. All right, we're ready to take off these last 2 pieces of ham, and you can, I'm not giving you the exact, I'm giving you a recipe that is based on how many pieces of ham that you're cooking or how much grease is rendered up. So I'm going to estimate that is about, I think we've got about 2 tablespoons of the ham grease in there. So we're going to add a tablespoon of butter to that. We're going to get that melted. And then to this ratio, so 2 tablespoons of the ham grease, 1 tablespoon of butter, and about a 1/2 cup of coffee. And again, you can make, if you forgot to make your coffee and leave it out the night before, it's not that big of a deal. You can make a fresh pot in the morning, but it really does just really get more rich and flavorful and so I guess to some people's mind, bitter overnight. That's the way my dad liked it, so that's the way I like it. Now this is a very thin gravy. Some people I know, like I said, add a pinch of sugar to cut the bitterness. I don't like to do that. Some people add bouillon to it to make it a little deeper in color and I guess flavor. I don't do that. Some people add flour to it, and actually that's kind of probably called a sawmill gravy if you do that. I like it this really thin consistency, and because you get to do what we here in Kentucky called sopping. You don't pour it over your biscuits, you actually have a little cup, almost like you do a au jus for a roast beef sandwich. And we're actually gonna dip those biscuits in there and sop up this red eye gravy. So I'm just gonna cook this down just a little bit more, get some flavor. I'm gonna pour it off and we're gonna heat up the biscuits. And we'll wait for Jessica to whip up this Bourbon Bloody Mary before we bring it tableside.
Today we're gonna make Bourbon Bloody Marys. Now you might typically more often find vodka and Bloody Marys, but in Louisville, in this part of the country, you're gonna see Bourbon Bloody Marys on a lot of brunch menus. So I'm gonna make my base today with tomato juice and then bourbon barrel smoked pepper, paprika, barrel aged Worcestershire, some Tabasco, celery salt, lemon juice, and then we're just gonna top it off with our garnishes. So we're just gonna start with a tall glass filled with ice, and then I'm gonna do about 2 ounces of bourbon. I'm using Buffalo Trace, made right down the street in Frankfort. A little bit more. And then I'm gonna add our spices. We're using barrel smoked pepper, black pepper, a little bit of bourbon barrel smoked paprika. I'm gonna use barrel aged Worcestershire. And I like a pretty good amount in there. I've also got Tabasco to make it a little spicy. And then celery salt. Just about a couple of dashes of that. And then we're gonna use the juice from quarter of a lemon. Okay. And then we just top that off with tomato juice. And give it a good stir. So now all that's left is our garnishes. And I've got today some pickled okra, since we're making a very Kentucky version of a Bloody Mary. Cherry tomatoes, they look delicious at the store. And then I've got a little cheese curd here. And finally, just a little bit of the country ham that I stole from Stacey earlier. And then just make that look nice there. And we've got a beautiful Kentucky Bloody Mary.
So I never really talked about why this is called red eye gravy with the country ham. Mm-hmm. Do you know?
I do not know.
So apparently there are several different theories. I didn't know this when I was growing up, I just ate it. But apparently some people think it was because you might get red eyes from being up real late, being tired, and you might want really stout coffee in your country ham gravy to make you more alert.
Well, and Bourbon Bloody Mary is a great pick-me-up too.
No doubt. So for more great recipes like these and other Kentucky favorites, check us out at culinarylouisville.com.
And we'll see you next time on Bourbon
and Biscuits. Cheers.